Many people think of blockchain as the technology that powers Bitcoin. While this was its original purpose, blockchain is capable of so much more. Despite the sound of the word, there's not just one blockchain. Blockchain is shorthand for a whole suite of distributed ledger technologies that can be programmed to record and track anything of value, from financial transactions to medical records or even land titles. You might be thinking, we already have processes in place to track data. What's so special about blockchain? Let's break down the reasons why blockchain technology stands to revolutionize the way we interact with each other. Reason number 1, the way it tracks and stores data. Blockchain stores information in batches called blocks that are linked together in a chronological fashion to form a continuous line, metaphorically, a chain of blocks. If you make a change to the information recorded in a particular block, you don't rewrite it. Instead, the change is stored in a new block, showing that X changed to Y at a particular date and time. Sound familiar? That's because blockchain is based on the centuries-old method of the general financial ledger. It's a non-destructive way to track data changes over time. Here's one example. Let's say there was a dispute between Anne and her brother Steve over who owns a piece of land that's been in the family for years. Because blockchain technology uses the ledger method, there is an entry in the ledger showing that Adam first owned the property in 1900. When Adam sold the property to Dave in 1930, a new entry was made in the ledger, and so on. Every change of ownership of this property is represented by a new entry in the ledger, right up until Anne bought it from their father in 2007. Anne is the current owner, and we can see that history in the ledger. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Unlike the age-old ledger method, originally a book, then a database file stored on a single system, blockchain was designed to be decentralized and distributed across a large network of computers. This decentralizing of information reduces the ability for data tampering and brings us to the second factor that makes blockchain unique. It creates trust in the data. Before a block can be added to the chain, a few things have to happen. First, a cryptographic puzzle must be solved, thus creating the block. The computer that solves the puzzle shares the solution to all of the other computers on the network. This is called proof of work. The network will then verify this proof of work, and if correct, the block will be added to the chain. The combination of these complex math puzzles and verification by many computers ensures that we can trust each and every block on the chain. Because the network does the trust building for us, we now have the opportunity to interact directly with our data in real time. And that brings us to the third reason blockchain technology is such a game changer: no more intermediaries. Currently, when doing business with one another, we don't show the other person our financial or business records. Instead, we rely on trusted intermediaries, such as a bank or lawyer, to view our records and keep that information confidential. These intermediaries build trust between the parties and are able to verify, for example, that, yes, Anne is the rightful owner of this land. This approach limits exposure and risk, but also adds another step to the exchange, which means more time and money spent. If Anne's land title information was stored in a blockchain, she could cut out the middleman, her lawyer, who would ordinarily confirm her information with Steve. As we now know, all blocks added to the chain have been verified to be true and can't be tampered with, so Anne can simply show Steve her land title information secured on the blockchain. Anne would save considerable time and money by cutting out the middleman. This type of trusted peer-to-peer interaction with our data can revolutionize the way we access, verify, and transact with one another. And because blockchain is a type of technology and not a single network, it can be implemented in many different ways. Some blockchains can be completely public and open to everyone to view and access. Others can be closed to a select group of authorized users, such as your company, a group of banks, or government agencies. And there are hybrid public-private blockchains too. In some, those with private access can see all the data, while the public can see only selections. In others, everyone can see all the data, but only some people have access to add new data. A government, for example, could use a hybrid system to record the boundaries of Anne's property and the fact that she owns it while keeping her personal information private. Or it could allow everyone to view property records but reserve to itself the exclusive right to update them. It is the combination of all these factors, decentralizing of the data, building trust in the data, and allowing us to interact directly with one another and the data that gives blockchain technology the potential to underpin many of the ways we interact with one another. But, much like the rise of the internet, this technology will bring with it all kinds of complex policy questions around governance, international law, security, and economics. Here at the
In recent times, we have observed how fast a pandemic can move, especially in a fast-moving pandemic like corona, as opposed to a slow-moving pandemic like common flu. The real problem over here are the undetected cases. Due to increased globalization, every flight and cargo shipment became a health risk. Every country focused on limiting the transport of goods and people. Japan was successful in reducing the number of cases by identifying the relevant clusters. Every country, if proactively does the same, will be able to bring down the incidence cases in case of a pandemic. Through blockchain, we can create an ecosystem of digital imprints through devices like mobiles, Fitbits, and transport carriers like flights and trains. We'll be able to track the movement of people and be able to capture the relevant clusters before the outbreak happens.
The world is suffering from water scarcity and water allocation problems. It is estimated that by 2050, 40% gap will be there between the allocation of water and demand and supply of water. Water markets are essentially a medium of exchange of water resources. The water markets face challenges like low infrastructure, high transaction cost, and also there is a lot of mismatch between the demand and supply. To overcome these challenges, blockchain can be utilized as it can have a transparent medium of providing water allocation with smart contracts as well as better allocation and water treatment. Some of the countries which are employing blockchain for water management are the MENA countries. In Middle East, UAE and Israel have a proposed joint project for water allocation through blockchain, which will not only provide better allocation, also it will have a better diplomatic relation between the countries. Another is Californian government, which is taking help from NGOs like Freshwater Trust to set up smart sensors in water pumping for water monitoring. Another example is New South Wales in Australia, which is mapping its water trading policies to align with the blockchain technology. So we can see all these examples of how water management can be done through blockchain.
We're going to be talking about how businesses are leveraging blockchain technology to solve issues in the government sector. Popularly, what we've actually found out is that there's been high incentive to artificially inflate the political support among the political parties. Obviously, because political parties gain a lot from just inflating their support because they will win democratic elections. And this has been the case not just recently, but from the 19th century. Actually, there was this study found that in the New York political state elections, it was found that around 41,000 people were actually eligible to vote. However, 55,000 votes are actually registered. So this is an issue that we've been facing since the 19th century, and this is why companies are trying to leverage such an issue, leverage blockchain technology to reduce such an issue. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to reduce fraudulent activities and the mismanagement of the rights of both internal and external stakeholders by increasing the transparency in the system and reducing the lack of security. This is important because we found out that government sectors, not even internal government sectors, I'm talking about foreign governments, they are trying to target and access elections in various states of the United States as well, because they benefit greatly from these elections. So a popular company that's actually doing this or trying to reduce the lack of security in the voting issue is Follow My Vote. What Follow My Vote does is you log in from your government ID from any remote location and you can vote online. The good part over here is you can track your vote as it goes to the ballot. So once you can see your tracking, you can see that it actually reaches the ballot. It's a secure process, and because it's blockchain technology, you're leveraging the most secure way to vote. The thing is with this that they're trying to mathematically prove the accuracy of the process, and they're trying to reduce the lack of security and the problems that are actually there in the voting system. There are many other companies as well trying to do this, but one of the more popular ones is Follow My Vote.
In March 2018, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro announced the launch of his national digital currency, the Petro. Maduro later stated that the coin raised $735 million from its first pre-sale day, though these figures must be taken with a minuscule grain of salt. State-owned media company Telesur claimed that 83,000 individuals in 127 countries have brought into Venezuela's cryptocurrency, ultimately totaling $5 billion in pre-sales. Though this is heavily contested figure, Venezuela should not be used as a litmus test for the success of national digital currencies, as the country is already into a hole too great to dig out of. But they are living a trend that will only continue to expand. In 2015, Ecuador became the first nation to launch a cryptocurrency, and since then, at least 13 countries have either launched their own cryptocurrency or hinted that they are planning to do so. Most nations likely see that the benefits of their own cryptocurrency as a form of profit and investment, a means to great oversight and control over the population's finances, the potential to monitor criminality, lower costs from eschewing the printers of physical money, easier taxation, and a move from away the inflations.
What is transparent budgeting? It refers to the extent and ease with which citizens can access information and provide feedback on government revenue, expenditure and allocation. Why transparent budgeting? Because taxpayers are out of loop about where their money is being spent, and it can also help in generating more revenues for the government, since citizens are more likely to pay taxes if they trust where their money is being spent. Blockchain as a solution, it can remove many middlemen who result in high budgets and massive inefficiency, and it can also help in reducing corruption because there will be a clear record of every spending. Example of this would be National Research Council of Canada. It attempted to leverage Ethereum blockchain to increase transparency in government contracts.
A country like India is heavily dependent on public distribution system for ration, for electricity and almost every basic service. In Indian context, the primary producer, say farmers, rarely benefits from the system. It's the middlemen who take the biggest chunk. Blockchain can help surpass the middleman system, helping the primary producer reach its good directly to the end consumer. This is the first step to creating smart cities, which ultimately creates smart nations. Blockchain not only benefits the consumer and the primary producer, but helps build a conducive environment for entrepreneurship.
Blockchain, if developed properly, can be used as a base by the Defense Intelligence Agency of India. It is one of the best and secured ways to share critical and confidential data without risking any leaks between agencies and locations around anywhere in the world. It is almost impossible to hack into, as if you want to hack into a blockchain, you would have to hack into each and every small block throughout the chain, which is very difficult as each and every block is encrypted at the same level. And it is very difficult to understand which block is connected to which block. Hence, without knowing the hashes, you will not be able to find the clear source of all the you will not be able to make sense of the information which you get from the blocks. Thus, until and unless you have the entire encryption and if you have the entire series, you will not be able to understand what exactly is the meaning of the information in those little blocks. There is no chance of losing data also, as blockchain encrypts your data and duplicates your data and keeps backup of your data everywhere. Hence, even if somebody erases one part of your blockchain data, you can always have that secured somewhere else. Hence, it is the best use of an open source environment. It is the best and the easiest way to access raw, authentic, verified data anywhere in the world. Hence, this is the best way of securing all your social security and also keeping track of all the national defense datas